Banks. What are the issues of raising money from banks? So you're going to take on debt, and actually debt is cheaper than equity, by the way, so you'd prefer it. But what's the issue of they're not going to give it to you? When does a bank give you money? The bank gives you money when you don't need it. So what happens? When you need it, you don't have the right background for them. You really need the money. You just got to get there. You get your credit lines when you don't need it. When you have personal credit, when your business is big enough, then you can expand off of that. But most of the time you won't be able to get money unless you don't really need the money. And when I started businesses, I couldn't raise money from anybody. Now I get about 5 things a day from banks saying, we'll give you a business loan. I go, I don't need a business loan. That's why I get 5 a day. They keep sending me stuff. How about investors? What are the issues of bringing investors on board? But what happens to you, you lose ownership. And as a first-time entrepreneur, you will lose the majority ownership. Once you've been successful a couple times, you get to have a stronger hand in dealing, but they usually come in and they will take a majority, so you'll be, you'll shrink down. So what happens when your ownership shrinks relative to the investors? Who are you working for now? You're working for the investors. And guess what? Sometimes the investors are wrong. They don't think they're wrong, but sometimes they are wrong. Nice little company. I was a part of a startup at some of the leading venture capitalists in the country. 3 of the venture capitalist firms investing in this business. The president at the time said the business for this technology is going to be in the scientific engineering market. The venture capitalist said no, it's going to be in the commercial market. Shift over from the engineering environment into the commercial environment. The president lost that argument. She got kicked up to be chairman of the board. You get to be chairman of the board when you don't have a job anymore. Sales, they ported everything over. Sales went to 0. They went to Chapter 7. So they were directing strategy and they were not necessarily correct. So you end up working for them and they can be wrong. So friends and family, some of the issues. Risky loans, because they are risky, and you can lose a relationship. Banks want you to be cash flow positive, will give you money when you do not need it, and investors become the new owners and are your boss. And often VC will bring in more professional management and kick you out. This happens quite a bit. They give you a nice title, and then they give you a plaque and they put you in an office someplace and try to move you out. So when you bring in them, so when you bring in outside money, you got to be really willing to be able to manage all these issues. Manage your relationships with friends and family, because believe it or not, you're going to have to go to them before you go to a bank. And you're not going to go to a bank until you really need it, and then when investors come in, you have to be willing to give up ownership and control, and they may take the thing that you started and gone with and take it in a different direction, and you might be out. Why is Bill Gates a billionaire, by the way? Here's a good lesson for you. Why is Bill Gates a billionaire? He didn't raise money. He didn't have to raise money. He had a big customer come to him. IBM came to him and said, we want an operating system. And you know the story, he didn't even create the operating system. He bought it from some other guy in Seattle. So why did Bill Gates become a billionaire? Because he didn't dilute his ownership. He had a customer. So hold off as long as possible. The longer you can hold off raising money, the more you keep, the more your wealth will be, the more you keep your control. The earlier you raise money, the more likely you're going to get into trouble. The lower the ownership you're going to have, the less control you're going to have, and you're more likely to be out. So try not to raise money for as long as possible. Don't start with a plan. It's just the opposite of what we usually force you to do in school here. What do we make you do? Write plan after plan after plan. Plans are meaningless. It's amazing the number of plans I've seen are complete numbers pulled out of the air, ideas pulled out of the air, they are totally meaningless. Start your business once you have a customer. I have this woman, in fact, she called me yesterday out of the blue. And this has been going on for about 6 years. She keeps talking about starting her own business. And she's written 3 business plans a year for the last 6 years, and she has yet to do what? Start the business. And she's like, oh, once I write the perfect plan, I'm going to jump out and I'm going to start my business. I said, no, go find a customer. Find a customer. If you can find a customer, then start your business. That should be the key for you. You know, once you have a customer, because once you have a customer, guess what? Your idea is tested. Is anybody going to buy this? Oh, well, I got one. That's good. You know what it took to sell it, so you know your positioning. What was it that they responded to? You know, you have a better idea of what will work. So I see plans all the time, and they're beautiful plans, and the numbers are beautiful, and the numbers are totally made up, and everything is meaningless because they don't have a customer, and they haven't tested their idea, and they haven't tested anything. So wait till you get your business going. What should get your business excited is you have the idea, you're excited by it, and you go out and you find somebody who's willing to pay you money. That's as much information as you need. Then you should jump in. And then once you've been in and getting things going, now you can write a plan of how you're going to scale that up to get more customers. Now you have something that's real. Now you can start to figure out, you know, is this thing going to be scalable? How big is this thing is going to be? By the way, we go back to the other things. Investors won't give you money, venture capital and angel investors, until your business is already underway. Banks won't give you money because they don't want to look at your business plan unless you have 3 years of historical data. Because guess what forecasted numbers are? That's a nice word. I was thinking something more earthy, but fiction is a good word. So how do they know when you're projecting that your sales are going to go up? They take a look at the last 2 to 3 years and say, oh, your sales are going up. If they see sales are flat and then the hockey stick, they go, I don't think this is a good business. Because anybody can make that hockey stick. What they want to see is, yeah, sales up, and oh yeah. And if we give you money, it might turn up a little bit more, but it's not making this big hockey stick. Don't rely on a plan to convince yourself to start a business. Get a customer. If you can get a customer, then you have a chance. In fact, many business, that's what they do. People are working someplace else, they're working on their business idea. On the side, they get a customer, then they jump ship. What happens when you jump ship without a customer? Then you're sitting there without salary or anything. And sometimes you have to, but try to avoid it. And what are some of the other benefits? You can write plans to get loans or to get investors. Of course, that's if you've already found point 3. And you can hire. Lots of times when you're hiring, people want to see your plan. Because your startup, they're going to say, hey, let me see your plan. At least you should if you ever go someplace. And that's, of course, if you already found point 2. So plans are helpful when you're raising money or you're hiring, but start your business. Don't wait to have a plan because it doesn't mean much.